Hello. It's getting a lot colder over here in the Northeast, so we're not seeing as many edible fungi as we usually do. That being said, we still have a really cool tree right here known as the white pine tree. Now, a really great way to identify the white pine tree, if you're able to grab a hold of some of its needles, like I have right here, and someone told me this trick. In order to identify the white pine, you want to make sure it's got W-H-I-T-E. 5 pines per clump, I suppose. Not only that, but it's a deeply grooved tree. As this tree ages, it almost appears like it's getting scaly. So you'll see these deep grooves with the layers of bark on it. Like any other pine tree, it produces its own sap, and there's actually some medicinal value in that sap. If you were to take the part of the root of this tree, burn it into a nice ashy powder, mix it up with its own sap, you can actually use that as an antibacterial band-aid. You can put it on wounds, on cuts, on burn wounds, and not only will it protect you from bacteria getting in there, it'll also help speed up the healing process for your own body. Now, one of the other cool things that a lot of people don't know about most pine trees, including the white pine, is that it has extremely high concentrations of vitamin C throughout the entire, what would you call that? Tree. Throughout the entire specimen. So what a lot of people would do is they would take the leaves and boil it into a tea. They could also take the inner bark. You can consume every part of this. You could take the inner bark, you can boil it for a long time and chew on that. You'll extract a lot of vitamin C from there. You can even take the soft pine cones before they get too woody and put that in a stew, which a lot of the indigenous used to do. As a matter of fact, another good way to identify this species is to look up, and if you see it's got branches all the way around the tree, almost like the spokes of a wheel, then you more than likely have a white pine if you've identified all the other factors that I've explained to you here. Now, as you look up, I'm sure you've noticed that it's got a few dead branches. That is because as the tree gets older, a lot of the sunlight is only going to the top, is only getting hit by the top of the tree. So these lower branches tend to die back, and it really doesn't affect the tree too much. It just, it's very efficient in how it does things. It's a very simple tree. Another cool thing about the white pine is it is a very fire-resistant tree. So I'm sure you've heard the story that for some species of pine, the only way for them to germinate is for them to go through a forest fire. That can be true with most species. What happens is you burn away the outer pine cone and you're left with the seed. But the really cool thing, just like a fungus, this tree produces by way of spore. So it will have a male and a female pine cone. The female pine cone is much larger, and it'll produce the egg tissue, where the male pine cone will produce the sperm tissue. Now the male pine cone will be producing the spores. The spores will be blown onto another female pine cone, and once it actually hits the egg tissue of the female pine cone, that's when it's gonna start interacting in a way that's gonna give you a viable seed, which you can then plant. And if you look down here, we actually have a bunch of little white pines growing. Now, you can see that his lower branches are dying because they're not getting enough light. Well, why are these guys surviving? That's incredibly simple, actually. It's because they don't need as much sunshine to keep producing. But as these get bigger, they'll probably, more than likely, these will die off by the time these get big enough to get more of the sunlight. So if you see yourself out there looking at just about any pine tree, you've got yourself a really good source of vitamin C.